Hello and welcome to Noninkables. This is episode 8. We are getting very close to set championships. They are next month. And so I will be talking kind of how we are preparing for that a little bit, although I will make a video later in the week, I think, detailing, going in depth about how we are preparing for that. But as a recap of last week, on the YouTube channel, I published a video about Emperor's New Groove, which is one of my all-time favorite, quote, all-the-time movies. And I figured it was good since, Bucky is dominating a lot of the online discourse right now. Everyone is either I love Bucky or ban Bucky or Huck to a Thug Life Bucky. And he is from Emperor's New Groove. So I thought that was a good, timely video. There was also a new Kronk card that was revealed with the Shimmering Skies set 5 cards that were revealed in the Lorecast. And so, both things in that one video. So if you haven't checked it out, take a look. If you haven't seen the movie, you should definitely see it. It's in Emperor's New Groove, I feel like, fits in this weird part of Disney where it's in between the Disney Renaissance of the classic movies of like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, blah, blah, blah. And then there's kind of like a weird phase to me, which has like my favorite movies. So like Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I know technically is part of the Renaissance, but I think it's super dark and very different from the other Disney movies. And then it has like Hercules, which is also hilarious. And then Emperor's New Groove. And then Disney went into like this weird part where they were releasing movies like Brother Bear and Spirit, etc. And then the second Renaissance with like Tangled and Frozen and Moana. And so that era, basically, I love Hercules and I love Emperor's New Groove. So if you haven't seen that video that I made or Emperor's New Groove, I would check both out. There was also a new card that was released, I think, yesterday on the Lumineers live stream, and it is called Remember Who You Are. It is a 4-cost uninkable card in Emerald, and it is an action card. So from the Lion King, Remember Who You Are. And it says, if chosen opponent has more cards in their hand than you, draw cards until you have the same number. This is kind of a weird card, I think, for Emerald, because Emerald usually is like a discard deck. So ideally, if everything is going right, your opponent doesn't have any cards in their hand, so this card would be useless. But I guess in a situation, which has happened to me when playing Emerald, is that as the Emerald player, you have no cards, and your opponent has a bunch of cards. And this has happened to me because I literally remember saying, like, I'm the discard deck. Why do I have no cards? When I was playing this on Pixelborn. And so I think it would be good for that situation. But if you have played your cards right, pun intended, in Emerald, and your opponent doesn't have any cards, then this is just a dead card because it's not inkable. So it would just sit in your hand. Maybe for like the mirror? I don't know. I don't even know. Because like if in mirror and they have Diablo, and so they got a bunch of cards, but then like when you draw more cards, they also draw more cards. So I don't know. I don't know where this would be useful. Maybe if you're playing a version of Emeralds that doesn't utilize discard as the win condition. So maybe like, I don't know, maybe like a Amber Emerald singing deck. It could be useful. I don't know. I'm not sure when this card would be useful. Anyways, and then in this past week, we've been getting a lot of cards. So I love finding a deal. So if I can find cards like under MSRP or under market price, I'm all over that. And it was mass release, so I went to Barnes & Nobles, and our local Barnes & Nobles surprisingly had a ton of cards. They did move the location, so the cards used to be near where all the Magic cards were, and then they moved them into like the Lego section for some reason, because I was like, where are the cards? And then it actually has like its own whole panel freestanding thing. So our Barnes & Noble had a ton of Ursula's Return. It had a Lumineers Quest. It had Troves. It had the like first chapter folio thing that holds the oversized cards. And it actually still had some Inklands booster packs. So I bought some Inklands and I bought some Ursula's Return. And I think we ended up pulling I want to say a Snuggly Duckling, just kind of like, meh, whatever. And then I also was able to find some first chapter booster boxes online for a little over $200, so like less than $210. And so I bought a bunch of those, and we got an Aurora Enchanted, which is pretty exciting because I think that card is so pretty and it just looks so, so cool. And then yesterday we got a case of Ursula's Return because I found it for like $99.99 online. And I was like, well, this is a steal. I gotta snag that. And we pulled another Snuggly Duckling Enchanted. So now we have two. And then I had also bought some of the Location Enchanteds because I was like, oh, these are like only $50. They're cheaper than Diablos. They're cheaper than Tragic Beasts. And the likelihood of like pulling it is pretty low. And so I might as well get them while they're still cheap before they go up in price. And so I bought like the Wall, Snuggly Duckling. So now we're going to have 3 of those. I think I bought RLS Legacy and like Pridelands or something. All the ones that were like pretty cheap. So yeah, hopefully in the future when we open stuff, we don't pull the exact same ones. I would like to pull some different ones. And then in terms of tournaments, we went to 2 last week. So on Friday, we went to a new, it's not a new local game shop, but new to us, called DVY. And I think it is mostly a sports card shop. There's like 2 rooms there. The front room is like sports, has like a big old TV and stuff. And then the back room has like all the card game stuff. And it was run by one of our friends that we play against at the other stores. And so there were a bunch of people. It was actually super fun. I took Ruby Sapphire there because I was in my head, I was like, I'm going to play Ruby Sapphire. My new me. I literally named the deck New Me on Dreamborn because I was like, new me. I'm not going to play red, purple. And I got smoked. Okay, so I played Ruby Sapphire. It was the Moyen deck. And the first person I played was playing a Blurple Elsa deck. I think she'd made it that day. And I met her before at Games of Martinez for set championships last time. And like, I didn't remember her name, but I do remember she had an Elsa mat. She had Elsa sleeves. Like, everything was Elsa, and her deck was also Elsa, which I think is so fun. So she was playing Elsa and Anna and Olaf's and stuff. And so that game, we went 2-1, where I won. And then the next game, I played somebody who was playing the Emerald Amethyst deck that got second place at Chicago, and I lost 0-2. The first game, basically they just quested, and because I was playing Ruby Sapphire, I couldn't do anything. So the first game I tried to like brawl one of their characters to try to slow them down, and that did not work. So the second game I was like, okay, I'm just going to ramp, ignore, and then be prepared. And I think I got to be prepared, but then I had to ink a Huron in order to ramp up to be prepared. And so then I had no cards. So then I was top decking, and it was bad. It was so bad. And so I lost. And then the third deck I played was a Blurple deck as well. And I also lost to that deck. That deck was so weird. So that deck is one of our friends who the guy loves to make decks that are like either a little off meta or like different from the meta decks. And so, for example, he had like a Ruby Sapphire one that he was really into that had, I think, no Lucky Dime in it, but had like air, or maybe it had Lucky Dime, but no Tamatoa and had Ariel in it or something. I don't remember. And so this Blurple deck it had location. So it had like McDuck Manor, it had Queen's Castle, it had McDuck Manor, it had Queen's Castle, it had Mickey Mouse Detective to ramp, it had the Jasmine, like Queen Floodborn card from first chapter, and it had Chernobog's Followers. I don't really remember exactly, but it was pretty aggressive. And so as red-blue, it didn't do that good. And so after that, I was like, I don't want to play red-blue anymore. I feel helpless when I play these like slightly aggro decks. And Brian played, I think he played Emerald Steel for that one, and he ended up placing third. And so then on Sunday, we went to a different tournament that was 10 people, and he took Amethyst Steel, and I took Emerald Amethyst to that one. And I ended up placing third on Sunday, and I think he placed like 8th. And so in that one, it was 3 rounds as well. The first round, I played a Ruby Amethyst deck, and it was somebody who doesn't play Lorcana very often, but I think is normally a Yu-Gi-Oh player, and he was kind of dragged there by his friends, and they gave him a deck to play. And so I think partly he wasn't a great pilot of the deck, because a lot of times he would bounce his goat or his rabbit without questing with them first. And I think that probably would have made a difference. And then so I won that one 2-1. I also, for the first entire game, missed my Diablo trigger because I wasn't used to playing Emerald with Diablo. And I only realized it because I drew a card and I was like, oh, this card would have been helpful last turn. And then I was like, I could have gotten this card last turn. I have a Diablo. Exert it out. Yeah. And then the second round, I played a Amber Ruby deck that was that, like, you play like Mulan, who's injured, you play Beast, who's injured, you play Mother Gothel, and then you heal with Rapunzel and Julieta, and then you have like Mufasa. And so that one I lost 1-2, and I think one of the games they had a Flynn out that I just couldn't deal with my deck, because I think really if they don't exert their Flynn, the only thing that my Emerald Amethyst deck can do is like kick Cloud Kicker it, and I didn't even have that. And then the other game I was like so close to winning, and they ran their Mufasa into me, and the Mufasa died and brought out a Maleficent Dragon, which killed one of my characters. And yeah, I was so close to it. I was like, no, what the heck? Maleficent Dragon? Seriously? Yeah, so that was crazy. And then the last person I played was playing a Blurple deck, and he is like somebody who is in love with Frozen, loves Elsa, loves Anna. And so he was playing a deck that had the first chapter Elsa at the top that freezes 2 characters. And then he also was playing Ursula, Sea Witch, the 7-drop from this set that can exert a character and doesn't let you sing. And then he was using Mickey Mouse Detective and Great Stone Dragon to ramp, which I think is very interesting. However, I don't think he had enough card draw, because towards the end he had all this ink, like 10 ink or something, but he didn't have any cards to play. So yeah, I ended up beating him 2-1. And so that was the official tournaments we went to last week. And then last night, we had a little like team gathering. So me, Brian, and Tyler, the new member of our team, and we did some like play testing, and it was super fun. So Tyler usually plays Blue Steel for this set. Last set, he played Amber Steel. I have never beaten him in a game, but yesterday I did, because he was trying out Green Steel, and that deck hates him. I think it's a mutual hate. He doesn't like green, and green doesn't like him. He never drew. I think we played 5 or 6 games, and he saw Diablo maybe once the entire time. He almost never had Bucky in his opening hand. And so it was actually kind of funny. And then even we did play one game, Open Face, where he had his ideal opening hand and I had my ideal opening hand, and I was doing red purple again. And still I got I think I got a Be Prepared out right at the right time. And then there were a bunch of times where it looked like he was definitely going to win the game, and I would just top deck a Be Prepared. And I was like, oh, maybe this red purple deck likes me again, and I'll go back to it. And so the red purple deck I was testing out is the new one from the 10K over the weekend that has only 4 1-drops. And I saw 1-drop every single time in my initial hand or in my mulligan. And so I was like, oh, maybe red purple loves me and I need to play red purple. So I'm thinking I will probably play red purple in the upcoming set championships and in the challenge. I was thinking about maybe I should play a different deck for set championships versus for the challenges, just because I think set championships, the meta is a little bit different. Like, there's more fun decks, and I also think that the people who go to set championships may be more limited in terms of what decks they can play, because that green steel deck is so expensive. It's like $700 or $800. And I remember when we went to SCG, there was a guy who was playing an enchanted Diablo because he couldn't find, it was too late for him to buy something on TCG Player because it wouldn't get shipped in time. And then on Facebook Marketplace, there were no regular Diablos or foil Diablos even. So you had to buy an enchanted one just so you could play green steel. And so I think in set championships, people may be more limited in what decks they can play, although I don't think that will be the case for the challenge. I feel like if you have the money to travel and go to a challenge and buy a challenge ticket, you probably have the money to invest and play whatever deck you think is the best. But that's just my assumption. Who knows? Maybe not. Yeah. And so for this upcoming week, I'm not quite sure yet what exact tournaments we're going to play in, but we do want to play some just to practice. So we'll probably play at the same store on Friday. And then the Sunday one, I think, is going to be a sealed. So I don't know if we're going to go to that. Undecided. And then I don't know if we're going to go to that usual Thursday. I don't know if we're going to go to that Thursday one that we usually go to. My work this week is pretty open, I think. Like, I'm not working that much, and so we may be able to go to more tournaments, but also we want to practice at home. And then I think the week after that, Set Championship starts, so that's super exciting. I really want to get that Ursula mat and card because it looks so cool. Personally, I think it looks cooler than the Stitch mat, because I think the Stitch mat, the thing with that is that, like, it's all orange. Like, the whole thing it's just so orange, and I don't really like orange, first of all. And I think that there's not enough contrast, whereas the Ursula mat is purple, which I love, and it's just dark and villainous, and I love it. And so we luckily have, like, near us, within, I would say, like 30-40 minutes drive, a lot of game stores. And so we pretty much every weekend are going to go to a Set Championship on Saturday and on Sunday, except for the weekend when we're going to Texas to go play in the challenge. And I think, yeah, I don't think we have to drive far for any of them. And they're all places that we play at normally because they have their stuff all on different days. And so it's going to be a lot of fun prepping for that. And I think prior to the Set Championships last time, I just played a lot of Pixelborn to get in the reps. And that's when I started taking notes about, like, who I played, if I went first or second, and if I, like, learned anything basically during the match. And then, unfortunately, we don't have Pixelborn anymore, so gotta play in person. We do have a setup for Real Play Connect. The table that it is set up on has a ton of cards that I haven't organized yet, and so it's not usable right now. So once I get that organized, then we'll probably play on Real Play Connect, and also practicing in person with Brian and also with other people. And then I've also been trying out Inktable, which is like an AI person, I guess not person, an AI that you can play against. The AI is not super good, but it does know that when you play Sapphire, you need a ramp, which I was impressed by. I was like, oh, wow, you're ramping. But it did also attack me with both of their Buckies. So not the greatest, but it's good for, I think it pilots like hyper aggro decks really well because you just play characters and then you can put in whatever deck you want to play against and whatever deck you want to play with. So I think that is also helpful just to practice. It's like what to mulligan and what sequence to kind of play the cards in. I think it's helpful for that. And then there's also, of course, on Dreamborn.inc, you can practice mulliganing and see what you get. Yeah, so that's what we've got for this podcast. So keep an eye out. I will make a video probably about going more in depth about how we are preparing for Set Championships. Really want to win. And then also for the challenge. And I'm just looking at our schedule ahead. So once Set Championships are done, the next weekend we're going to Gen Con. And then after that, new cards get released. So it's going to be a lot of Lorcana. And I know before we were looking into maybe going to Toronto, but airplane tickets were kind of expensive for that trip. And so we decided not to try to get tickets for that. I think it was going to be like over $1,000 for the two of us to fly to Toronto. And that was just plane tickets, not including like housing or anything like that. Yeah, so that is it for me. Let me know if there's anything you want me to specifically talk about in a future podcast. And as always, keep shuffling and hopefully you don't end up with a whole handful of non-inkables. Bye.